Hello, family and friends. Welcome back to another session of Coffee with Cody. Today I thought I'd talk a little bit about my educational journey. Um, Covered a lot of ground, went to a lot of schools, uh, some good, some not so good. There's quite a few stories involved, and I'll try to share as many as I can and maybe not run up the tab as far as minutes go. Education for me really started at home. Uh, my mom did a lot of stuff with me as far as preparing me for school. Read to me, had me practice letters and numbers and things like that. When I started school, it was at the Immaculate Conception School. I was 5, going on 6, as my birthday was September, and school started I think at the end of August. So I don't remember, I really don't recall if I had to take a test to get in, but certainly the Catholic school was 1 through 8, and long range plan was that that's where I was going to be for the next 8 years. In all honesty, you know, we knew there was a school there growing up. We knew that that was where we were probably headed, being Catholic. I don't know the financial aspect of it. I know that when we started school, all of the instructors were the nuns. We did have religious classes with the priest. So I started in the fall of, it would have been 1961. The story here about that, we still lived out in the country at that time. I wasn't ready to go. I still had a lot of brothers and sisters at home to play with. And leaving them and having to go to school, a new environment. I knew a few of the kids because of seeing them at church in various occasions like that, but I wasn't really taking that on very well. My dad actually had to physically carry me into school for the first 2 weeks. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I didn't get spanked, but I was thrown over the shoulder and hauled in physically and dropped off in my first grade classroom. Now, most of the classrooms at the Catholic school were 2 grade levels. So there was basically 4, maybe 5 nuns. I don't remember if they split the 1st and 2nd grade up, but I do remember going 3rd and 4th together, 5th and 6th together, and 7th and 8th. So it was a little bit different structure than maybe the public school. But nonetheless, the education that we got there was a good one. A lot of the students that came out of the Catholic school excelled once they got to high school and did fairly well. Now, I'm not going to say I was a perfect student. Got in trouble a few times, kind of a little rebel. We'll share some of those stories with you here. But that first year, like I said, the first 2 weeks, until I basically got used to it, my dad physically carried me to school. And then eventually, we rode the country school bus. Don Heidner had the Highway 13 route, and you could jump on the bus at 2 different times. The first was with the bus heading north. I think it went as far as the Brookman turnoff up on the north end of the Roosevelt County line, and then turned around and came back down. So most of the kids had 2 basically opportunities to jump on the bus. I eventually got used to it. They would take you as far as the South Side School. That was the drop-off zone. Most of the kids were public school kids. And again, on that bus, it ranged from first grade to seniors. There were all levels of individuals on that bus. I don't remember how many it held. I'm sure probably at least 45, maybe 60. It was a good sized bus. And Don Heidner was the driver. Occasionally his brother Tom would substitute. But we were one of the later pickups on Highway 13. We lived about, I want to say, 6 miles north of the junction. So Highway 13 intersection of Highway 2, and then from Highway 2, they headed west into town to drop off the students. Certainly, from our place heading south, you had the O'Connors to pick up. There might have been some Schwindens. I don't remember if Dory or Chris or, what was the older brother? Mike. I think those were the 3 Schwinden kids. Then once we got on Highway 13, I remember a triplet family, and across them was a Marchwick family. So there was triplets and Marchwicks. And then continuing on, I remember just before we got on the 4-lane, we picked up Dale Smith and Cookie Smith. I think those were the 2 final riders on that route. But those are memories and some names that I remember. So we got dropped off at the Southside School playground and we cut across. I don't remember if there was any other Catholic school kids. Maybe. Well, eventually the Matajoskis rode with the Codys, so I know that eventually there was a few of us. I don't think so, though. So that was part of my indoctrination. Was Dad probably walked me across the playground from the bus and showed me how to get over to the Catholic school. Now, the Catholic school, our playground was basically on the back side of the church and school. There was a big area there. It used to be pebble gravel. Eventually it turned into asphalt. But again, when you went out to recess, it was basically at the same time. For the most part, maybe 1 or 2 days of the week, they went out separately by grade levels because of some specials that you might have been doing. Really, the specials that I remember separate might have been music. I recall getting together for music, and it was kind of like all school choir, really. But other than that, you did your art in your classroom with your nun. I don't remember any of the other specials that we might have done. Your PE was going to be your recess. So we did a lot of PE-based things out there. I remember Red Rover, send somebody on over. Pom Pom Polo was another game. We played softball. We played Foursquare. We played... there was a basket back there. So we did shoot a little basket on a metal basket with chain mesh for the net. But basically that was it. And then of course throughout the day you had your basic instruction in reading, math, English, science, spelling. Some of the subjects that we did. We were not very nice to the nuns. We nicknamed them penguins with beads. For I want to say for all of my school, grades 1 through 8 at the Catholic school, the nuns did wear habits with beads. We did have some lay teachers. I remember Alberta Tong in the 3rd and 4th grade area. I remember Carla Coffey in the 5th and 6th grade era. I also remember Minerva Decker. She taught science classes. So those were 3 of the lay instructors that we had during the years that we were there. For the most part, discipline was not an issue. I remember when we went to the bathroom, there were only so many stalls and so many urinals in the bathroom, so we stood out in line and went in 2 by 2, or maybe we started with 3. And then you would go in when the next one came out. So it was kind of a rotational basis. But most of the time, you had to wait for the time that it was a bathroom break. I don't remember too many times asking to go use the restroom. In fact, I remember a time in the 2nd grade it was. I don't remember. I think the nun's name was Sister Mary Stanislaus. And of course, we weren't too kind to her. We didn't really call her Sister Mary Stanislaus. It was something else. But she asked for volunteers. At the 1st and 2nd grade level, some of the kids did not have control of their bowels. And so there were occasions where there might be a little poo. And the nun basically, if you didn't volunteer, you got appointed. And I got appointed one time, and your task was to go up and down the rows trying to sniff out the guilty party. That was not good. It was quite an embarrassing time for both the sniffer and the doer. Not so fun to talk about, but that is a memory that happened, and I'm sharing it with you because it was reality. Moving on, 3rd and 4th grade, one of the big memories there was in 3rd grade on my mother's birthday, November 22nd, 1963. We all know what happened on that day. That was the day that President John F. Kennedy got shot. And because Dallas and Texas was about an hour ahead of us, it was our noontime, because the incident happened around 1 o'clock where he was pronounced dead. But before that, he was in critical condition, and we were all in the whole school on our hands and knees saying a rosary. That was about the best thing that we could do. But that is a vivid memory that we had, was saying that rosary and then learning eventually that the president had died. And it was not a very good day for Catholics for sure, but the country as a whole. And that is a memory that I had. One of the memories that I had for 4th and 5th grade, we ended up with a nun coming in from Leavenworth, Kansas, which is where the Sisters of Charity from Leavenworth, which was the order that sent the teachers to us, came from. And a nun that came to our school was kind of in social work as well when she was in Kansas, in Leavenworth. And she introduced us to music. She played the guitar. That was one of the most memorable times we had, was music class and singing with her. She was entertaining, very instructional. I learned quite a bit at that level about scales and things like that. Really, that was the most of the music that we ever had or were exposed to. I know that when we were in the 8th grade, Lowell Hansen from the high school came over and asked if any of us wanted to participate in the band at the public school, and several of my classmates did. I originally was going to be with the clarinet. My mother played the clarinet. She was very talented musically when she was in elementary school. And she had this old clarinet. Of course, we didn't have any money, so we couldn't rent any instruments, or we were going to try and get that. And I remember the bell component of the clarinet didn't match the stem, and we tried to get Lowell to find the proper part, but because that instrument was too old, I think it was out of date with any pieces or repairs that could be made on that instrument. So I never went into music. I couldn't really see myself as a clarinet player nowadays, or even back then. It wasn't just an instrument that most guys played. But, you know, it would have been my chance to get in a band and learn some more about music. But my exposure basically was in that 5th grade with, her name was Sister Ann Ruth. For those of my friends that went to school with me and can remember those names, we had Sister Mary Stanislaus and Sister Ann Ruth. And then when we got into the 7th and 8th grade, our principal basically was the 7th and 8th grade nun, Sister Rosalie. And many of us remember that name, especially those of us that got reprimanded on occasion. Going back to some things about recess, when it was wintertime, we played football, and it was tackle football in the snow out on that playground. And I remember on one occasion, I don't remember what grade level we were. I want to say it was 4th, 5th, or 7th and 8th, but we were locked into a pretty good contest. And again, 4th and 5th, 7th and 8th together. Well, it would have been 5th and 6th, excuse me. 5th and 6th, 7th and 8th, because 3rd and 4th were together. But anyway, 5th and 6th and 7th and 8th, and we would all play against one another. We would pick sides. A couple of the 8th graders would be the captains for each team, and that's what we did. We played football in the snow, tackle. But on this one occasion, we were locked into a pretty good contest, and there was a bell that usually rang to signify the end of recess. Or there was also a handbell that the nuns rang if that bell froze up. That did happen on occasion. But on this one particular day, in the game that we were playing, we didn't want to go in because it was so tight, and we were having so much fun, and we needed to see who was a winner. Well, it just so happens that we suffered the consequences for that little action, and at the end of the school day, all of the boys, because it was basically boys, had to stay after school. And for some of us that rode the country bus, that meant our parents had to come in and get us. Again, not a fun time. You know, at the Catholic school, you suffered 2 disciplines. You suffered the discipline of the priest or the nun, or you went home in addition and suffered those consequences. I don't need to explain to you what kind of consequences were suffered at home. We didn't have timeouts in those days, so it wasn't a timeout. I remember another time, the first, well, I guess it was scuffle that I got into. I wouldn't really call it a fight, but we were probably 5th or 6th graders, Jimmy Stenslin and myself got into a little scrap. And again, the consequences of that one, he and I had to clean the erasers for the whole school at the end of the day. They had a little spot out back on the playground in the corner, and you just basically beat the chalk and dust out of the erasers. It was probably about a half-hour task because you're talking about erasers for maybe 5 classrooms. And back in those days, a lot of times we were sent to the blackboard with chalk and eraser to do whatever lesson it was, basically math and science, but mostly math. We did diagram sentences in English as we got older. That also became a measure of discipline. That was one of the punishments that you encountered. You got to either write, I will not do such and such and be a better boy and follow the rules 100 times on the board, or you got 50 sentences that you were given to diagram. Well, I didn't think either one was much fun, but of course I chose the diagram route, being that there was only 50 of them, and I thought that it might take a little less time. And that happened during recess. You didn't get to go out to recess if you were in trouble, and you were basically in the classroom doing your diagramming. And one of the things that I did benefit from that was it really helped me with grammar. When I got to high school, grammar was one of my strengths, and it allowed me to participate in advanced English classes. So there again, even though you were in trouble, that education that you got at the Catholic schools did pay off. A couple other things that I want to share with you about the Catholic school. I remember a few times where we would get into trouble, well, in music in particular, but we used to always put on these plays. You would put on an all-school play for Christmas time for the Nativity. Certainly there were celebrations that covered St. Patrick's Day, and the reason for that was our priest for many years until our, I believe, 7th or 8th grade year was Patrick J. O'Reilly. So being an Irishman, we did celebrate St. Patrick's Day, and basically we had like instruments, triangles, what else do I remember? Kazoos, maybe a little piece of wood that you would beat another piece of wood with. But anyway, we put together a band, and we tried to do McNamara's band in honor of Father O'Reilly. But also, there was a time when we got into trouble, and we were practicing for the Christmas Nativity play, and basically what it was that we each had roles. Some of us were the wise men, some of us were Joseph and the three kings, and just different parts. There was male parts and female parts. Well, this one particular time, all of the boys got in trouble. I don't remember what we were doing, but certainly the nuns got perturbed at us. And what they ended up making us doing was we had to give up our roles within the play itself and just become part of the choir. So if you didn't have an acting role in the play, then you were part of the choir. And in this case, all of the males were removed from their particular role and were part of the choir. And then the last one that I remember, we were practicing for May Day. Every May, at the beginning of the month, we had what was called the crowning of the Virgin Mary. May was the month of Mary, so because we were the Immaculate Conception Church, we always crowned the statue of Mary. And in this one particular occasion, we were in the 8th grade and we were practicing for that May Day crowning. Now, we processed in 2 by 2. We had a candle in one hand and a song sheet in the other. So you were singing the songs and marching in, and then one of the girls happened to get picked to be the one that crowned the statue of Mary. Well, in this one particular practice, Jim Stenslin, again, got his song sheet close to the candle, and it started on fire. And he dropped it on the floor, on the tile floor in the church, and we stomped that out. But that was another one of those things that was not easily forgotten. Quite a memory there. The last one I want to share with you, and I'm just going to cover the Catholic school for now in my education journey. I'll continue on. I'm going to try and keep these a little bit shorter. But the last memory I have is in the 8th grade, we had what was called a civics club. And there was officers for the civics club. And basically you had your president and vice president, secretary and treasurer. And those positions were out of the 8th grade. And then the 7th grade had the secretary and treasurer position, but the president and vice president roles came out of an election from the 8th grade. Well, my 8th grade year, in our particular class, there were 18 girls and 7 boys. So we had a class of 25. Now, it was a secret ballot, and it came election day. I happened to be the nominee for the boys, and Patty Bruin was the nominee for the girls. And we were running against one another for that president position of the Civics Club. I don't need to tell you, I don't think, what the tally of the vote was when the votes were counted. And yes, they were write-in votes because it was secret ballot. The nuns collected those votes and counted them. And at the end of the count, it was Patty Bruin 18, Tim Cody 7. And we learned at an early age at that level that there was such a thing as partisan politics. But let's just say I was not well liked by the girls. So that's another one of those funny memories. Another memory, the last one. Well, no, it might not be the last one. I might come up with another one. But I remember also we were in the 8th grade. We were in science class. Minerva Decker was our teacher. And we were working on something. I don't remember what particular topic we were working on. But Mike Green, for some reason, got in trouble with Minerva Decker, and she smacked him over the top of the head with the science book, and it broke the binding, and it made a heck of a racket. And, we still talk about that and have a laugh to this day. So if you see Mike, he no longer has any hair, but you can certainly check to see if there's any knots on the top of that bald head of his. Oh, well, those are some of the memories that I share with you from the Catholic school days. Certainly there are others. I guess one of the last ones I'll share with you is that we used to have lunch in the basement in the parish hall. And I thought the lunches were good back in those days. One of the favorite things was homemade bread that we got to get. And also, it was a school-wide lunch. I don't really recall if it was, I think it was restricted that you couldn't go home for lunch. So it was a closed campus kind of situation. But in many instances, you were not allowed to get up from your lunch until that whole meal was eaten. And then, of course, after lunch, you would get to go out on the playground for lunchtime recess. But I do remember that one of the least liked meals was split pea soup. And there was a lot of empty milk cartons that contained split pea soup when the nuns weren't looking, to dump that soup in those milk cartons and get that off of your tray and thrown into the garbage. I don't know if the nuns ever caught on, but I'm sure they knew about it. But irrespective of that, I enjoyed it. So every once in a while, I would have an extra bowl from one of my classmates that didn't like their pea soup. So that's just another memory to share with you. I think I probably have enough to talk about for the next time on Sunday, as this is recorded for Thursday, that I will talk about our high school days and some of the memories that I have there. So we'll just progress our way through that, through my educational years at the various schools, and we'll see where it goes from there. With that, this is Coffee with Cody, signing out.